Walk into any store or business these days and you will be confronted, most likely, with an iPad that's prompting you to leave a tip. Now, this isn't just at your local coffee shop or the cafe. You're also seeing these iPads everywhere. We're talking boutiques when you're buying clothes, gas stations, when you're just trying to grab a Diet Coke. Tip prompts have even found their way online onto a baby formula retailer's website where, if you tip, you're able to get your order faster. So what do you really need to know when it comes to tipping etiquette and exactly what should be done? Here with more on that is TikTok star Haley Sachs, aka Mrs. Dow Jones, Finance is Cool founder and CEO. Haley, it's great to see you here. So before we get into the do's and don'ts of tipping, what's behind this massive explosion that we have seen in the need to tip? Because I was always brought up that you tip when you're satisfied with the service that you've received.
Absolutely. I was brought up that way too. And I think during the pandemic, we all got more generous because we were so grateful to the delivery drivers, to the restaurant workers. It was such an unsure time. So we went above and beyond with our tips. And now that is what is expected.
Well, this subject certainly got us talking in our morning meeting today. And that begs the question about etiquette around tipping. We're used to tipping at restaurants, right? At hotels. But what about coffee shops, for example? Because that seems to be the expectation more and more. You've got that iPad, they turn it around, and you're expected to put in a tip there with that barista right in front of you.
I know, and even worse with the line behind you of 20 people, so you don't want to be seen as cheap. It's a very stressful moment. I completely understand. At a coffee shop, the rule is 20% if you're getting a complicated beverage. But if you are just getting a cup of black coffee, $1 to $2 will suffice.
So Haley, then you should tip every time you do order a coffee or a croissant or anything like that, it sounds like.
Absolutely. You do have to tip during those moments.
What about a restaurant? Because I think standard is 20%, but is that the minimum? Because it looks like from this full screen we're showing that there's some situations you should be tipping up to 25%.
So it used to be 15 to 20% was the spectrum of tipping at a restaurant, but now it has inflated to 20 to 25%. That is correct.
What about some other services? We were talking about salons today, for example. I mean, I always had the expectation you're supposed to tip at least 20%. Has anything shifted on that front?
Salons, it is the same as it's always been, 20% to your main stylist and then $5 to $10 to the assistants. So whether that's the person shampooing your hair or assisting maybe with color or with blow dry, those people, $5 to $10.
What about teachers? Because this came up in our meeting and there is a debate whether or not you should be giving them gift cards. We're talking about end of the year or maybe when we get closer to the holidays. Is that something that should be done? And what about giving cash in that situation?
Absolutely do not give teachers cash.
Why not?
But I think around the holidays, don't give your teachers cash. But around the holidays, I think it's very nice to show your appreciation with a gift card, with a baked good, with a really nice card. It's really what you can afford. But, teachers work so hard, and I don't think there's any reason not to give them some token of your appreciation, whether it's a gift card or otherwise.
I want to get back to that earlier point you made about why tipping suddenly became so ubiquitous, that having to tip everywhere, because you said that people became more generous during the pandemic. But I wonder if there's a bit of a backlash that's now happening. Are we still seeing people be generous with the tips? Are they still shelling out money that way? Or is there some reckoning here that's happening where people start to say, well, why do I have to tip for everything? I mean, what does the data bear out?
Absolutely. I think there is what I would call tipping fatigue. We are sick of being asked to tip every time that we make a purchase. If we're going to a bodega for a bottle of water, we don't want to tip on that. And I understand. I don't think in that situation you should. But the real issue here is that workers aren't being paid enough and consumers are being forced to compensate their wages with tips. So workers could be making as little as $4 an hour with the promise of that being bumped up to minimum wage by the generosity of customers. So it's a lot of pressure on us to take out our wallet.
Yeah, Haley, that's a great point there. Just the fact that so many of these workers are paid below minimum wage and really rely on the tips that we're providing as a consumer in order to make ends meet. Haley Sachs, great to have you. Thanks so much.